So I have a wonderful patient who helps me recall the devotion I used to have in a particular religion. I was raised Catholic. And at a certain point in my life, I would no longer call myself anything religious. But at a certain point in my youth, there was so much devotion, so much truth that was being pointed to that I resonated with in the stories, in the teachings, in the energy of like authentic worship. But like any building, like any institution, authenticity can be very co-opted, distorted, hijacked as a means of separation, power, control. And that didn't resonate with me. But this patient of mine is the kind of authentic practitioner that reminds me of what I miss in some ways about being able to share that in a community. There's lots of things I don't miss, but he said something today as we're not processing about faith or awakening, or it's very unrelated, but it comes up. And it's alive. It was alive. It is alive. So let's see what wants to be said about it. But he said that in his views, it's very clear to him the movements of good and evil in the world, movements of God and movements of darkness. I talked about Satan, which it feels like such a specific, like, direct way of pointing to something that isn't an entity for me, or a being, or an angel, or a fallen angel, or a person, or a demon, or anything. But what he's pointing to in what he said deeply resonates, in that for him, Satan, his work is to fill people with insecurity and fear and trauma and darkness so that they can't see God anymore. And in the same ways, the word Satan, the word God, also points to something beyond a person, beyond a man, beyond an entity, beyond a word, beyond anything speakable. But there's some sort of power in putting a name on it. It's like it's not a power that I'm attached to, or that I belong to any doctrine around it, but the power of naming something so specifically, like Satan's work is to enshroud us in this suffering so that we can no longer see God. There's something really resonant and evocative about that. And the mind might go to justifying the stories and the reasoning behind why that's false. But there's no interest in that here. There's more of an interest in between what's being pointed to, in between what Satan's job is, in between what seeing God is. In the possibility. Here, the idea of sin and evil is much more to do with misunderstanding. It has very little to do with judgment or righteousness, like self-righteousness of being above or holier. But it has to do with the misunderstanding of who we are, what we are. The misunderstanding of what this life is supposed to be, such that we no longer see God, so that we no longer see beyond what that word could be touching on. Just this, the misunderstanding that we're at all separate, or ever could be. The misunderstanding that we're more important or less important. And the purgatory or punishment that comes from Satan arises here, now, not in some afterlife, but here. The suffering of sin, of this misunderstanding, puts us in a place of misery, of insecurity, of endless trauma, endless unsafety, always fighting to be somewhere else, in the past, in the future, safer, more special, more approved of, more wealthy, more powerful, more desirable. That's happening now. That hell is the trance that's happening now. The dissociation, not quite safe. Gotta get away, gotta be separate. Can't trust what's really here in front and alongside and within this being, this humanity. Can't quite trust, so I've got to go away. The ego, the me, selfishness, the greed, the delusion, the sin, whatever words, they're all pointing. The devil, Satan, is here. It's not some monster hiding in the shadows, unless the monster is the internal experience that hasn't been looked at. And then it really is a monster. And then it really is a nightmare. As soon as we start really feeling into it, when we start facing these energies, it can feel at first like the nightmare is coming alive. It will. It will. But that's where the real courage comes in, of possibility of salvation, of heaven, of awakening to God in everything. Where is it? Where is this love, this divinity, even in this pain? Well, it's here and now. It's not some dream image of who I will be, the better me, the better version, the more humble version, the more safer version, the more complete, the smarter version, the more prepared. Can we see? It seems so simple. And it can be when we remember that the delusion, the insecurity, the suffering compounds the moment we leave thisness, this direct contact with what's here. Doesn't mean the faculties have to shut down. Our mind, body, it's even more vibrant. The mind can be very active. The body can be very active. We can be rejoicing. We can be organizing. It's alive right now. But the preoccupation is not trying to get anywhere, trying to be anyone. So humbling. Because often when we're not trying to get anywhere, be anyone, and we make a mistake, we get hurt, or we grieve something we lose, or we feel shame, or we feel scared. And we're not quite sure how to be with others. You can feel like this awkwardness, this rejection, this suffering of being human will last forever. It's pointless. It's so hard. But what this beautiful client, this patient of mine, points to is even that awkwardness, even that rejection, in that, are we really in it? Are we really feeling it, or have we lost sight of God in that moment? Because if we're really feeling it clearly, cleanly, openly, presently, with this divinity, and what I feel into that in this moment is with the breath of life, with the spirit of life, it's surrendered and open and loving and compassionate and boundless. It's an entirely different moment than the moment where I identified, contracted, unconscious, turning away, feeling doubt, feeling, not just feeling doubt, but being the doubt. So swallowed up by the doubt that we can't look at it and it pervades everything. It's so forgiving. It's so forgiving. It's so forgiving that we don't feel we're worthy of this continual invitation to heaven. As long as we've forgotten that we're already it. We are already the heaven we're seeking. We are what we're seeking.